Hank Green, everybody.
Thank you. Oh man, this has been so fantastic. Thank you, Andy and Andy. And all of you, this is a very big honor to be on the stage with all of the amazing people who have been on this stage so far. And thank you for sitting while the heat from the person sitting next to you gets closer to you, and you feel, and it's just, I'm going to do something. There's people in the room right now that are wearing really big shoes. I'm going to do something that you maybe want to try. I'm just taking them off. I'm pretty confident that no one is close enough to smell this right now. You may not be, but it's so much better. It's good to have 4 points of radiation. So, I make internet video. I have been doing it fairly successfully. We started about 8 years ago, coming up on our 8th anniversary. It's a weird thing because when we started, there was of course no way to monetize it, and there wasn't a lot of people to watch it. But so that's the right time to get into things apparently. Back when nobody else is there. So I did some calculations recently. Our videos have been viewed 800 million times, which is we're working our way up to that big B, you guys. And if about 5 minutes on average is the watch time for those videos. They don't watch the whole video, assholes. And so it's 4 billion minutes. There's an expression you may have heard called killing time. Killing time is what you do between the thing you're doing now and the thing that you have to do, but there's not really enough time to do anything useful, so you're going to kill that time. It's a bizarrely apt phrase because human lives are made of time, and so in killing that time, you are literally killing yourself. Little pieces of it, but you're killing little pieces of yourself, which has made me think about the fact that I have killed 4 billion minutes of human lifetime, which turns out to be 85 lives. Which is not a thing that once you've done the math, you can sort of unknow. And you're sitting there in bed at night thinking, have I done 85 human lifetimes of good? No, not really. And that can kind of hurt. But to be clear, we kill together, me and my brother. I kill slightly more people than John does because of SciShow, which he doesn't work on. But we kill sort of as a joint team. Though, honestly, he's probably killed way more people if you count the freaking book. This was a really weird thing that just happened in my community, is that my brother wrote a book that became very successful. But we kill mostly teenagers, high school and college students. Really even mix between male and female, which I'm proud of. And recently, I think the coolest thing is if you do the math, we have recently killed our first member of the Greatest Generation. Which is a difficult thing to do on the internet, unless you're Juno, or I guess Yahoo. I'm not sure. Where do they go? But this is all by way of establishing my credibility right now. I'm not going to talk about how I got here because I think it's a very much of a lottery situation where I have no idea how I did it. If you want to get popular on YouTube, get a time machine, go back in 7 years into the past, and then start a YouTube channel then, because I don't know how to do it now. I guess it's a 2-step process. Earlier we had a 3-step process earlier today, and I was like, no, I can do better than that. 2 steps. First, build an extremely engaged community of 200,000 minimum people who care about you deeply and want to support the things that you do and have their values resonate very well with yours. And then that's first step. Second step is just use them. Just exploit the crap out of them and be like, hey, I'm doing this other thing. You want to do that? I'm going to do this other thing over here. And as long as it resonates with the sort of central values of the community, then, all of these things have started to work out. I do we converted Pride and Prejudice into a video blog, and we started an online video conference and a crowdfunding platform and a charity, and all of these things wouldn't be possible. The only reason I could do this thing is because I have this weird tool of 200,000 crazy, excited people who are enthusiastic about things on the internet, and we sort of agree about what good is. So I want to talk about that, but I sort of did. Now you know that stuff. But broadly, I wanted to talk about some stuff that I feel like I have learned that hopefully will be useful to you. It would have been useful to me to know this earlier, so I want to talk about your dreams. I was really curious how this was going to go. I figured some people would laugh, but I wanted to make it pretty, so I worked a long time on this slide. I thought, this is such a sad statement, but it's it can be such a wonderful thing. Before I get to why that is, let's talk a little bit about your past. You were 8 years old, and someone said to you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're probably still asking you that. So there's an infinite number of careers. Pick one. I remember being asked in Sunday school what I wanted to be when I grew up, and for some reason, like 7 out of 14 people said oceanographer. I'm not really sure what an oceanographer does even now. I'm pretty sure it's complicated and I don't want to do it for a living. But oceanographer, I think it was right around the time that A Voyage Home came out, so maybe that had something to do with it. Whales are in danger, and we like them. It was just everybody wanted to be an oceanographer, so I said that, and it became a big part of who I became, because somebody asked me when I was 8 years old if I wanted to be an oceanographer. I remember in first grade, they asked us to make haikus, and I had so internalized the idea that being, the ability to become something was an important thing, and that oceanographer was the thing that I was going to become, that when they asked us to write haikus, because they were teaching us what a syllable was, I wrote the following haiku. Oceanographer. That is what I want to be. Oceanographer. I kind of think this is super messed up. You take an 8-year-old who's been sentient for 2 or 3 years, they've been a human who knows that humans are humans for about that long, who's probably pretty happy with who they are. And you say, well, stop being happy about it, but I want you to think about the future. Let's think about what you're gonna be. Get really obsessed with that idea. And I think that it kind of maybe comes from a place, this is a picture of my high school, where you're look, you're gonna have to go through some terrible stuff for the next 10 years, and you're gonna learn long division and past participles, and you're gonna get up at 5:15 in the morning and have your soul sucked out of you for 6 or 7 or 8 hours a day. But kid, keep your head in the game. At the end of it, you're gonna be a motherfucking oceanographer, right? And I understand this because my mom at the time worked in community development and social services, and so you need to give kids something to want. We all need something to want. We need something to drive us forward. We need that dream. We need to know that we can be more than what we see around us and what we see our parents doing. We need to know that stuff. That's really important. But somehow I feel like this got translated into how about we have teenagers decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives, because everyone knows that teenagers make fantastic decisions. I remember when I was asked this question as a kid, my answer changed quite a lot. I told my mom at one point that I wanted to be a house husband, and apparently get really buff and dust my boombox. And and she was like, yeah, being super progressive. Yes, you support your wife, you raise the kids. That sounds absolutely fantastic as a career. She wasn't as enthusiastic when I told her when I was 12 that I wanted to be a Domino's pizza delivery driver, because that seemed like the coolest job in the world to me. Because those guys seemed cool. They came with the pizza. They were 18 to 22 years old. Super cool guys for 12-year-old me. And also, they got to work with cars and pizza, 2 of the best things. I still really love cars and pizza. But when you're given this opportunity of a world of everything and you have to pick a thing, which I think we all kind of have to do every once in a while, and you pick a thing, because you like cars or pizza, or say you really like eating pizza, so you decide you want to make pizza, or you really like video games, so you decide you want to make video games. Those things are very different. It's okay to pick a thing and try that out, but it turns out that you might not want the thing you thought you wanted. That's lesson number 1 for me. This is a really weird thing. I make video blogs for a living, right? So I edit video a lot. It was 5 years into the process of making video blogs that I realized that I loved editing video. It wasn't just that I liked writing it. which I liked pretty well. And it wasn't just that I liked sort of the process of building a community. I really liked the editing video part, which I didn't know until I had the opportunity to pay someone else to do that. And I was like, oh no! Wait, I like this. It's so hard to know the thing that you're going to like before you start doing it. My brother doesn't like editing video, and he also does it for a living. He sort of begrudgingly does it now. But I just love it. I love editing video. Now, there's a bigger problem here. Is this counting up? Oh, good. Wow, I'm fast. I'm just, all right. Whew. Slow the fuck down. So I do a lot of like science-y, education-y stuff. Recently, I got the opportunity to have my own TV show, and I would communicate science-y, education-y stuff to a large number of people through television. This would be a dream come true for 4 years ago Hank. He would love that opportunity. Now Hank is kind of like, ugh, Hollywood, Shark Week, like, yeah, just like less control, more work, flying around, all things I don't really like to do, and I've sort of seen other friends do it. But I almost said yes, despite the fact that I didn't want to do it, out of an obligation to me from 4 years ago. I've watched this happen to a number of my friends. I know it's not just me. And this is weirdly freeing. Like, you don't have any obligation to your former self. There's no loyalty to them. There's no loyalty to a desire you once had. So if you look around the room, none of these people can you say you are smarter than. Not just because that would be a really dicky thing to say, but also because like intelligence is very tricky to measure, and there are lots of different types of intelligence, and human brains are complicated. But there is one person I can say objectively that I am smarter than, and it is me 4 years ago, because that guy knew less than I did, except he knew like all the things that I currently know, except less. And he had all the life experiences that I currently have, except fewer. So why do I have an obligation to a guy who not only is dumber than me, but literally does not exist? So here's a super... Are you serious? Is this like slow time? Okay, I'm going to tell an anecdote that's going to not click the slide forward. I loved the Mars trilogy when I was in high school. Any Mars trilogy, Kim Stanley Robinson people? Totally changed my life. I read this book and I realized that it must be. Time passes weirdly. I've discovered the secret to time travel, you guys. Stand here. Take off your shoes. Is that what you said? That's good. This is a weird building. So I love that book a lot. It changed the way I thought about it. It changed me from thinking like, what do I want to be? What do I want to be when I grow up? To what do I want to do? And I remember telling my girlfriend, who became my wife, literally laying down pillow talk times, and I'm telling her the things that I want to do with my life that I've decided as a freaking 18-year-old. I want to go to Mars, which is ludicrous looking now because I get nauseated in elevators, and two, I wanted to fix death. Follow my logic here. I figured that being the person who brought an end to the, greatest, like, individual human level existential crisis that we have, and like also so that your children and parents and friends won't have to deal with that, that would get me a certain notoriety, and everyone would be like, Hank Green, that guy, pretty cool. I'm not dead. And that would be a kind of immortality for me. But in addition to that, there would be the actual immortality. I gave up on that particular dream, but if any of you want to take it on, that would be lovely. I kind of gave up on all of my dreams over the course of the last 10 or 15 years, which sounds so sad. Like, don't give up on your dreams, kid. But it's like weirdly freeing, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, because here is the moment where I realized that when I was a little kid, and all throughout a lot of my life, even throughout all of these professions that I wanted to have, I was really obsessed with science communication. So I didn't want to be an oceanographer. I wanted to be Jacques Cousteau. I wanted to be a guy who was sort of universally recognized as smart. So I'm standing here right now, so like all these smart people will be like, oh, that guy's pretty cool. Like that's the whole reason people come to talk at conferences, I'm pretty sure. And so I wanted to be that, and like I had a subscription to Scientific American from the time I was 11, and there's like a 1-year gap when I haven't had it. Like I'm just obsessed, Carl Sagan, Beekman's World, like there's a huge, 34-year-olds. So like I wanted to do that, and I wanted to use my brain for the betterment of the world like Jacques Cousteau did, and I wanted to look good on camera, on a boat, like that's pretty cool. And here's the weird thing, through some magical mystery, I do that for a living now. Like that's my job. I talk about science and people think, oh, that guy's pretty smart, and I get to communicate the wonderful majesty of the world and look smart at the same time. Woo! Success, right? So dream achieved. Wait a second. Oh, this is the fucking clock. This isn't, I thought that was like the amount of time I've been talking. I have no idea how much longer I have. All right. So it turned out that I'm just going to do it. I'm sorry. It turned out that I didn't really care that much about that. There was never a moment where I was like, yay! Like there was never a champagne pop, put your name on the line, record contract kind of moment. It didn't get the Oscar. Like there's it's a continuum of lovely experiences, but there's no, and I'm kind of glad there isn't. Like professional sports people, any Bills fans? Yeah, sorry they suck so bad. But I have a friend, Matt Frank, he lives across the street from me, and when the Bills win the Super Bowl in 2043 or whatever, we're just going to assume that they'll win before civilization collapses, which, But when the Bills win the Super Bowl, he's going to be so happy his house is going to fall over, and it's going to be wonderful, and I'm never going to have a moment like that. I'm just not. That's not what I'm built for, and I'm kind of glad I'm not, because I've noticed, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but like moments of extreme success are depression triggers for me. Something wonderful will happen, and I'll be like, oh, yay! And then like 3 days later, I won't be able to get out of bed. Fuck success. Jesus, why did you do this to me? What's wrong with you, evolution? Why did you give me that gene? I heard a couple of mm-hms. Is that a thing for anybody else? What the fuck? That is angering. So, I think there are problems with the institutions of dreams. One is that it doesn't happen like football, right? At the end of a football game, one team has more points than the other, they win. At the end of your life, you're fucking dead. So there's that thing that things that look like dreams aren't really that wonderful, and only certain things look like dreams. They're sort of arbitrarily selected by what they look like and by what society happens to be prizing at that moment. And you aren't society, you're an individual. You're not like an amalgamation of culture. People say, get the big deal, get on TV. These are the things that make sense as a success moment, and really you're not doing it for you because maybe you don't want that, and if you end up doing it and then you don't want it, then you feel like shit because you're like, well, I have this thing that everybody else wants, so I have to keep doing it because I'm going to look like an asshole if I stop. What else? So if you have a dream and you have a toolbox, and your toolbox can allow you to do a number of different things, and you're only heading in that one direction, I have news for you. There are infinite other directions. And that limitation, why would we impose an artificial limitation on the number of paths to success there are, on the number of paths to happiness there are? Dreams are just a surrogate. I'm listing the things that are wrong with dreams right now. You don't really want an Oscar, you want recognition from your peers. You don't really want to get acquired by Google, you want a big fucking pile of money. And so if you take the lid off, and instead of asking what you want, you think about why you want it, then suddenly it sort of frees you up, and you say, okay, I have a toolbox, and I know what I want, and I know why I want that thing. I want recognition. Mostly I think for people like us, it's recognition from our peers. It's people being like, that's a cool thing. That's the moment. That's the best thing I get. And that's the least hollow, because I'm I respect you, so I can't say you're wrong. So that I have to be okay. Maybe you guys aren't as insecure as I am. You're certainly warmer than I am. I'm sorry about that. All of this is to say that dreams are actually, they're wonderful. They're like agriculture. Like, there are problems with the institution of agriculture, but I am in favor of it. There are problems with the institution of dreams. I'm in favor of them. We need something to push us to work 16-hour days sometimes. We need something to drive us to be better and weirder and different. But I think that if we let that one thing drive us, that we're missing, like, it's a failure of imagination when we miss opportunities. My favorite thing is when people succeed in ways that you, like, what? Huh? Like, Welcome to Night Vale, that wasn't that wasn't a choice that somebody had before it happened. My career didn't exist. There was no way to make money off of YouTube years ago. I don't care anymore. And so you have different things that power your car, and you have different things that you're building your car out of. I think in the end, it's not about finding a success. It's about building the number of things that you're capable of. Because then you can do more interesting things, and we need people to do interesting things in the world. And I think that that is a good place for me to end. Thank you. Now take my shoes with me.